Well, you can have all the housing statistics you like, but maybe one story communicates the human misery better than anything else. Here on the show and right across Newstalk, we've consistently highlighted the difficulties faced by one cohort of people struggling with the housing crisis, and they are renters. Basically rocketing rents upward. But imagine how difficult it must be to find yourself in this situation when you have a child with special needs to take care of. Well, our Newstalk reporter, Kieran Cuddy, has been speaking to one family who are facing homelessness if they cannot find suitable accommodation before the end of this month. Kieran, tell us about the McGuinness family.
The McGuinness family, Ivan, is Tracy McGuinness, who lives with her two sons, Declan and Brendan, in County Kildare, North Kildare. They're renters, like almost a million other people in the country, and they're looking for somewhere to live with some degree of urgency, which you mentioned there, and we'll come back to that in a moment. But in terms of just looking at the moment, you mentioned the rocketing prices based on a lack of supply, and I just had a look on daft.ie before we came into studio. There's less than 3,000 rental properties in the entire country, so it is at an all-time low. But what makes the situation for the McGuinness family stand out is that Brendan, who's about to turn 13, has acute special needs.
He is completely severely disabled with very profound care needs, very medically fragile. He was born with severe brain damage. He has uncontrolled epilepsy. He has severe cerebral palsy. He has drastically worsening scoliosis. He's on the wait list, that ever famous wait list for a spinal fusion at Crumlin. He has osteoporosis. He's non-verbal. He's peg-fed. He's deaf in one ear. He can't walk or sit. He can't hold anything in his hands or scratch an itch.
Brendan, with very specialist needs there. What are the adaptations or special property needs that he has in terms of the rooms he's in? Yeah,
he has, if you think of those needs and what goes along with them, Tracy mentioned he's peg-fed. That takes place over a 20-hour period, so it's constant care that he needs. She gets up in the morning, she gives him medication for his stomach, intestines, seizures for his liver. If he's well enough to go to school, he's to go from an adapted medical bed, a hospital bed, to a wheelchair that's moulded around his body, into an adapted car, down a ramp. So he can't be in an apartment building. He can't be going up and down a lift. He can't be in a house that's up a few steps up into a front door. It has to only be 1 or 2 steps, so a ramp can easily be fitted. He can't be in your classic semi-D, the 3-bed semi-D, which we have everywhere, because as Tracy told me, look, if they went in there, they'd have to get rid of the dining room table and he'd have to live in the kitchen. That's really essentially what they'd have to do. It leaves bungalows, and again, I went on to Daft before we came into studio, Ivan. There's 3 bungalows in Ireland available at the moment that are wheelchair accessible on Daft, and that is the options that are open to them.
In the last 9 months that I have been looking, there have been, well, I could count them on one hand, right? Most recently, one back down just outside of Kilkenny City was actually told I had the lease on, and then it got pulled out from under us. Now, that would have been suitable. It was a newer bungalow, would have been ideal. Didn't get it again. So
how frustrating is that?
Extremely frustrating, because I had already contacted some movers to help, contacted the schools for both boys.
Right, and therefore the present conditions aren't suitable.
Yeah, I mentioned, right, there's a sense of urgency. What the situation with the present house is that it is a bungalow and it has been made wheelchair accessible, but the environmental health officer from the county council has come out and it's deemed it uninhabitable, the house. And I was out there.
For dampness reasons?
There's damp, but there's actually a few holes in some of the walls upstairs. There's holes in the roof.
It's just substandard.
It's substandard. So they've got on to the local authority have got on to the landlord to say that works need to be started by the end of September on this house. So either he doesn't commence works and they have to leave the house, but even if he commences works, they're so extensive and Brendan is so fragile that they'll have to move anyway. So either way, at the end of this month, they are going to be gone.
So I have to the end of this month, the end of September. So we're looking, 3 weeks, if not even less. And ironically, Brendan's birthday is the next day, the 1st of October. So I wonder, where will we be for his birthday when he becomes a teenager, which is a milestone I never thought he would make. But he has. And I suppose 3 weeks is an unrealistic time frame for me to think we could actually get a house in that space of time, but I hope.
So, Kieran, just so that I have this right, they're facing effective homelessness, not because they're being evicted. The conditions have been condemned for the McGuinness family. They're just not suitable for Brendan's special needs.
Yeah.
So what are their options now? I assume they're already on the social housing list.
Yeah, in North Kildare, where they live, they're on the social housing list. Now, they were told the wait there is about 12 to 15 years for a house. That can be expedited given your situation. You'd imagine theirs would be expedited, but they were told that wouldn't even half the wait. So 7 to 8 years they'd be waiting. Now, what Tracy is planning to do is move down towards Kilkenny. She's got a family support structure there and friends. So just a support base, really, which is important to people who find themselves in this situation. But such is the shortage of supply of social housing anywhere in the country that there's a wait there as well, unless they're prioritised, of several years. And this is something, this wait, that constantly preys on our mind.
Frankly, Brendan's life expectancy isn't that long. Anyway, he has a life-limiting condition. I don't know how long he will live, but I would like to see him see 20 and he's 12. He needs permanent home in that space of time, something that is warm and dry, and something where, frankly, my other son Declan can make the best memories with his brother while he has his brother. Right now, I've got a 9-year-old son, Declan, who is daily talking about being homeless. Yeah, it's I can't even tell you the stress. I have never been as so under pressure in my life than I have with this situation.
Your heart goes out to the McGuinness family. So really, the moral of this desperate story is that on top of all the statistics and all the people who literally don't have a roof over their head, when you add in illness, disability, and with such severity, it's all compounded.
Yeah, I suppose we have, as you said at the very outset, it's a story, the rental crisis, that we've covered a lot here in Newstalk. We've also covered over the last few years the lack of services that exist and the supports that exist for people with special needs. That essentially the state assumes that some family member will kind of step in and that they'll do all the heavy lifting. There's very little there. This is a combination of both, and when you see them coming together, people are really find themselves in that desperate situation like the McGuinnesses.
Well, let's hope there'll be some good news for the McGuinnesses. Kieran Cuddy for now, thank you.
The Hard Shoulder on Newstalk.
With the